big titty women of negotiable virtue,
and that was the perfect time to go live.
Yeah.
But I actually watched an episode of 911 today with oh God, what's that actor's name? He played Chris on Parks and Rec. He was in The Stand.
Yeah.
Rob Lowe, the guy that never
Yeah.
ages. He's a fire captain or something, but apparently a woman found her husband's car outside of one of those quote unquote no-tell motels, and she just lost her mind and decided to drive a construction like piece of equipment through the entire motel because they wouldn't tell her what room her husband was in.
I mean, that is that's a reasonable reaction.
All right. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by two special guests today for the first time in a long time. Actually, we have guests, and we're discussing an indie comic. We are joined by Diana and Chris of HeroShack Press to discuss Mangai Yoshokan. I'm going to say it like that every time because I do not have a smooth Asian like way of dialecting things. But you may know HeroShack Press from their other projects such as Cluster Fudge, The Great Cyclopean, Trolls Exposed. It looks like I think I missed out on that one. We were trying to get you guys on for that one, but it didn't quite work out.
Yeah, Trolls Exposed. Yeah, we've been busy and we're pushing our new one, Mangai, which we actually say the same way you do, Mangai Yoshokan.
Okay.
Yeah, so you didn't lose anything in the translation, so to speak.
All right, excellent. Now, is Trolls Exposed like a Trollney fans?
Oh boy. Uh-oh. No, I'm going to say no.
All right. Good. I'm not sure I would have been interested if it was, but
it's a collection of stories about trolls. There is a single story that sort of kind of runs through the entire collection. I wrote my first short story with my daughter, Krista Illustrated. Chris did most of the stories, and we also had one of our online buddies, Rick Piper from Cross Comics. He also threw a story in that's kind of fun and quirky.
We love Rick. He's kind of a background character in the show these days. He just pops in and blesses the chat every now and again.
Yep.
But
so Canadian goodness.
Yep.
I think the Great Cyclopean was the last project we had you guys on to talk about, and and that was a great success for you guys, from what I remember.
Yeah, we did.
I was a much more decent human being back then. Now I've been exposed to these guys long enough. I'm a degenerate.
Yeah, we're all terrible. Oh, we have actual faces. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I keep hitting the wrong button and I turn my camera on and off.
Yeah, it happens. I've done it once or twice, but oh god,
Hey.
no, turn that one back off. We don't need that one. But no, so I guess the floor is really you guys. Would you like to start with the elevator pitch video, and we'll just go from there, discuss the project?
Chris?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I do have a real quick question about the Trolls Exposed thing. You said you wrote that with your daughter. Is it full of heartwarming?
No.
Okay. Well, because for a minute there I was enthusiastic. I was like, oh, see, indie comics have range. We can do nice things.
Well,
clearly.
It is heartwarming, but it has a little bit of a twist to it. So,
Okay.
yeah, there is.
Well, you need that bit of lime to make it nice.
So let me know if the audio is coming through for you guys. If not, I can just refresh this.
Yeah, no audio.
Of course not. All right. So we will.
I blame our AV guy for being off to the side of the road in Kentucky somewhere.
In a van down by the river.
Look, he just had to deliver some bodies to a riverside in an unmarked, unknown vehicle. It's all good.
There you go.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. What is Mangai Yoshokin? When three kids go to investigate a local castle, they find themselves in the middle of a demonic battle where a fallen angel seeks impossible redemption over an undeserved life. In the course of searching his lair, these kids find amazing powers to help stop the demons from destroying humanity. Wow, that's the wrong video, but it's okay. That's our fault.
Well, that's actually the one that's up on your website. I can
Yeah.
pull up the one.
No, that's fine because the only difference is we didn't go for
Oh my
1.3 million plus $1. That was my
That's
original.
so funny.
Yeah, that was my original funding goal, and I got talked out of it on launch night.
I'm just struck by the juxtaposition. This is not a criticism. I love it, but I'm just struck by you have this narrator in a world of danger and mystery, and then you have like this da, 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 da.
The music, right? Isn't that funny?
Yes, it's this happy music, and this like the world in peril.
Well, and the funny thing is, it's kind of the book is almost like that in one way because it's got a very Power Ranger kitty feel to it at times, and
Right.
yet it's not that happy-go-lucky, bubbly type of show at the same time. So it's kind of got that sense to it.
I was actually going to say the first thing that hit me is, of course, you've got the Power Rangers like overall thing there with the transformation and the costume, but to me, it actually hit more on like a Guyver level. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that
Oh, I
property.
love the Guyver.
MacGyver?
No,
No,
the
Guyver.
Guyver.
The Guyver.
Yeah.
Guyver. No, it's
Guyver.
Which the live action version was done by a bunch of actors, including Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill.
That was
Yeah.
not some of his finer works.
Well, I mean,
the anime series is
saved that
pretty.
That movie was great, though.
Yeah, the anime series was pretty decent. 70s and 80s sci-fi anime.
Oh wow! I googled it, of course, because I wasn't familiar with it, but this looks cool.
Actually, the easiest way to describe the Guyver is it's the Blue Beetle, except instead of getting an alien symbiote and having body armor, it's an anime and it's hardcore.
We don't disrespect Ed Cord like that, Rune.
No,
Also,
I'm
so
not
this happened
disrespecting
first.
the Blue Beetle at all. I'm just saying the Guyver and the Blue Beetle have a stark similarity.
Yeah, this is like the old Dennis Leary joke about who was that comedian? Frick, what was his name?
Sam Kinison?
There was no.
Okay.
There was a comedian who did Dennis Leary's bit first before him, and he said, it's true, I did steal this bit from Dennis Leary, only I said it 10 years earlier, and I was better at it.
Oh,
That's kind of how the Guyver relates to the current year Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
It did all those stuff years earlier and better.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna go down that particular rabbit hole and be super nerdy for a minute, I mean that applies to Venom as well. What
Are
is
you talking
Venom?
about Bill
but,
Hicks?
Yeah, Bill Hicks. That's a Bill Hicks joke.
Yeah.
I mean, what is Venom but Guyver again?
Yeah, but no.
So Guyver's had some influence.
Oh yeah, it's a manga. It's an ongoing manga. Well, I don't know if it's ongoing anymore, but it had a very long run. That was an anime for I think at least 3 or 4 seasons, and there were 2 live action movies that made it over to America that were just so horrible that they were fantastic.
I have not seen them yet, but I will.
Oh man, get some popcorn and just prepare for 2 hours of the worst, best thing you've ever watched.
The second one takes the unfortunate direction of being a little more serious, but the first one, it has to be said, not only does the Guyver look good and there's actual like believable martial arts action in it, but whoever backed it, whoever funded it, didn't shrink on the FX. So the monstrous antagonists look like villains from the Power Rangers or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They are dudes in suits, and it's amazing.
Yeah, so there's the movie cover for the original, but
Yep.
basically this silver orb gets stuck in this guy's head, Mark Hamill's head, with his fantastic mustache, and
I don't think it actually gets stuck in Mark Hamill's head. I think Mark Hamill is a detective trying to figure it out while the story is going on around our young protagonist.
Is it not Mark Hamill?
I
Is the
don't
young
believe it's Mark
protagonist in that movie?
I don't think he's the lead. No,
I gotta watch this again.
I've
probably
got
one of
it. We could settle in and watch it sometime.
We should.
Show's over. We're
But anyway.
gonna go watch the guy.
Yeah,
Go back one guy and watch this show.
All right, so we'll put a pause on that real quick though, and talk about the actual
Right.
The comic.
the actual topic at hand here. So Mengai Yoshikon, teams decide the fate of the world.
Yes.
With instead of $1.3 million, we pulled it back down to $1,300 and $1.
Right.
Yeah. My wife and a couple of
Stop.
different, I want to say indie comic pros, but I don't know if that's an oxymoron. But they talked me out of it.
I mean, right off the top, I'm interested because $1,300 and $1 for full color,
Yes.
is nice.
4 books.
Because you could.
It's 4 different issues, not 4 printings of the same book.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, that's a tall feat.
Well, we actually, I've been working on this since last September.
Okay.
And I got the idea. You guys might have heard of Immortal Mask from Denali Press.
Yep.
When I received his books, it was 3 issues, and I thought that was really cool because it made me actually feel like I was reading 3 issues of a comic book subscription or something.
I got the bundle from oh god, I think it was he's gonna hate me. It's the cowboy comic. Iron Jack.
Yes.
No.
Jack.
I know the one you're talking about.
Oh no, he's gonna hate me. I'm so sorry. I'm terrible with names.
I think
Ironverse Comics.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it came as like 6 issues, and it just felt so good to actually have more to read when you're done with that first issue.
Exactly.
As somebody that's been reading comics for so long, it's one thing to read week to week, but we all know eventually we fall into a habit of letting them stack up for 2 or 3 weeks, and then we pick a weekend day and sit down and read the whole stack.
Yep.
Well, that's what I was-
catch-up day.
That's what I was actually talking about the other day in the private chat that we have going for the gospel. If I read a modern book from one of the big companies, maybe you get 20 issues in a run, right?
Yeah, before they reboot it or redress
So,
it, or
even if I really like the run, I'm like disappointed because there'll be no more of it. For research on a thing I'm working on, I had to go read Rom Space Knight, and I love Rom Space Knight.
yes.
Rom Space Knight's got like 70 issues and 3 annuals,
Mhm.
starting in
Yep.
79, right? That's amazing.
and several guest appearances in other books.
Right, and then there are a couple of spin-off runs, and I'm like, oh, this is great. There's so much here to read. I'm gonna love this. One of the things that I'm not like critical, but I've grumbled about with indie is it's all okay. I'm gonna run a Kickstarter, or run a Indiegogo or what have you for one book, and then we'll fund next book if there's time, if we're able. And I understand it. I understand like the difficulties, but I've always said it's like we got to get into runs. We got to get into subscription models, because even if the old style is not coming back, like the back of the book, sign up and send away model is not returning, you're not going to get any stability, any long-standing fan base,
Right.
unless you have more book
That's
and
true.
more regular book.
Yep.
True.
You've got to have a reason for them to want to go to your next one too, and the story
Right.
has to suck them in, or else it's just dry comics.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, we all love our one shots and our what ifs every so often, but you can't necessarily make a model off of anthology comics. Like I used to
Yep.
get Twilight Zone comic. I love the Twilight Zone comic. I like Gore Shriek. I like Tales
You-
from the Crypt. But there's a
You
limit.
can't-
Those don't stay.
you can make a market off of an anthology. The one thing you have to do though is you have to have a consistent through line in the anthology. There
Right.
has to be something connecting the threads from book to book. Elsewise, it doesn't matter if you skip an issue, and if you can skip one, why can't you skip 5?
But
There
but
you
like,
go.
If you can skip 5, you stop reading altogether.
But like if we took this book as an example, which does look very interesting, despite I'm not a Sentai fan. I'm like, oh, this could be neat. If you did one issue and it was just the one issue, and then like in 2 or 3 years, you'd have, and we're putting out another one, it would have less impact because now I haven't read the book for a couple of years, and I don't want to open my fancy polybagged book that I'm trying to keep nice to read it again. You know, so I'll have no idea what's going on. I'll have no investment in the continuing story from a comic I read a couple of years ago.
All right,
Yep, you're right.
So starting down the page, we've got 3 teens stalked by a local bully stumbled upon a demonic battlefield while exploring an abandoned castle that's rumored to be haunted. As the danger grows, they find protection in the most unlikely form of a fallen angel named Bryce the Bold. Bryce soon realizes the battle will overwhelm his abilities to protect the teens, thus using technology older than this creation. So I like the emphasis on this because that apparently matters.
Yes.
Bryce grants them access to something beyond comprehension, granting them powers not only to save themselves, but perhaps the entire human race. The process makes them Yoshikan, Mangai, Sister Sentai, and Shogun Garrison, joined by Schism, the Cyber Skullbot. Together, they must find a way to fight the agents. Schism, is that the little red thing with the arms?
No, actually, he
Okay.
is the little red thing with the arms is actually a punch puppy, which lives in the
Punch
haunted castle.
Puppy.
Yeah, if you tick them off, they go nuts and try to punch the crap out of you. But their punches are like that of a 3-year-old, so they're
I
rather
kind of want
effective.
one as a pet.
Yeah,
I mean, let's say
Something that
it's
can fight back against my toddler.
I mean, full on comic swag. Make a stuffed of that. Make
Yeah.
make a plush we can buy.
Pipe cleaner arms, oversized gloves.
Yep.
We are looking into that. We have to get it funded, guys. You got to. That's
Right.
Yeah, I can't get Diana to buy any unless I can show her sales.
You can just make
Well,
pencil toppers and people will be happy. These things are
That's
adorable.
true. That's true.
Or like those little finger gremlins that they
Yeah.
have arms. You put them on, you wiggle.
Yeah.
But I mentioned earlier, I'm not really a Sentai fan. These guys, Larry and Church and Ayrton, wherever he may be, whatever he may be doing, they're the Sentai fans, and we're actually playing some Power Rangers RPG, like a bunch of loser nerds. The thing is that I remember when Power Rangers came out in the halcyon days of yore, and it was pure kid stuff. It was awful.
Yep.
I really hated it because I was a cartoon guy. I was like, this is getting in the way of my cartoons. I want to get to my X-Men. I don't want to watch Power
You're gonna have
Rangers.
to excuse my French here, Diana, but shut your whore mouth, Rune.
You can eat it. You can like it, Church. But here's the thing, though. Over series, it got like more serious and more refined and deep, and there's a lore. So when I talk to these guys, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to tell you all these things," and I like that. I like that you have this book here where you present 3 kids find essentially magical powers, and what do they do with them? They instantly use them to do kid shit. The kid interpretation of what super heroics are, and yet I'm certain, sight unseen, it's like there is so much deeper darkness going on that these kids are not ready for.
Well, you can scroll down on the page and see this evil ass clown, and know that
Right.
this is not just because, I mean, this guy just
Is it because
just
clowns
looks-
are evil, or just
no, man. Like usually when you see an evil clown, it's just like, I could take him in a fight, but this thing, no, it just looks mean.
Yeah, and there's large numbers of them in the book, because the haunted castle is actually a hotspot for all sorts of wicked demonic things. They run into all sorts of characters, including demonic clowns, ninjas, vampires, hags, trolls. Yeah.
Are the clowns like the putty patrollers? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, actually, the clowns, there is an interesting twist that I'll tell you and your audience. Most of the clowns you'll see in the book are actually fancy balloon sculpted creatures. They all come out of a clown car, and there's a demon clown inside the clown car who's blowing them up and animating them into
That's
life.
Fantastic.
Well, the fun thing is the kids are able to kill the clowns because they're not actually human. Once they figure out they're just balloons, well, now we can have our Power Rangers kill everybody who's on the bad team without killing anybody. There's little things like that throughout the whole thing because part of the fun of the Mangai Yoshokin is they don't really understand anime. They don't really understand manga. They understand localized, westernized versions of these things. So even as they become these fantastic creatures that they know from fiction, it's all twisted fiction from the westernized localization of it. And that comes into play as it will come into play, assuming that they go into issues, 5 through 8, and then so on down the road. That would be one of the main things, is that they just don't really understand the true Mangai.
So what was the decision to do individual issues as well as a hardcover?
Well, the individual,
just releasing a soft cover trade and a hardcover.
Yeah, the idea of the issues is to simulate having a group of monthly comics in front of you. The hardcover is just me wanting to have a hardcover. I've never never had the occasion to produce a hardcover before. So I'm putting all 4 books plus the handbook all in one, huge volume, so I can justify getting a hardcover book. I encourage everybody to get one, but I really want one too. What's that?
Chris, in the hardcover, are you not adding some extra?
Yes, in the columns, because it doesn't fit perfectly to the pages. I've set it up so that there are columns on left and right. We'll be using those for insider notes, tidbits about where ideas came from in the book. Some of the stuff I've written already is it's discussing how many times a page was redrawn, because I do that a lot.
Another way that's really smart is if we use a really high end example like Watchmen. Watchmen's this huge novel of a comic, and everyone's like, you got to read it. It's like, I don't know if I have that time or that interest to put in that much time for that block, right? But if I'm just hanging out with my friends, we're just having some sodas, watching some TV, waiting for the it's summer and it's hot, right? And I say, hey man, you got to read this book, and I hand them a little tiny, 12-page, 20-page comic book, right? And it's like, it's issue 1. I got issue 2 coming in 2 weeks. That's good word of mouth. People can actually consume that bite-sized media and then know if they like it or not. So,
Rune, are you 425 years old? You're talking about hanging out in the hot summer, having some pop with your friends. What's going on here, buddy? Do we need to have a conversation?
Back in my day, we used to go play kick the can.
I'm scared.
I always lost because I'd fall down.
I remember that. That's scary. I was like, oh yeah, I do remember summers. Yeah. Oh boy.
So I have a question. Knights of the Zodiac, was that an influence on what we are seeing here?
Not really, no, but that doesn't mean that you won't find tropes in there that could feel familiar because of that. There's a lot of things that happen in here that would go with a lot of different series, mostly because I just always found these things to be so cool, like the way everybody would transform into their characters, the different themes that you'll find behind the characters. So the Knights of the Zodiac aren't direct influences, but that kind of setup you might recognize in this book. Does that make sense?
I mean,
yeah.
You could also go the direction, Larry, of Code Lyoko, which also has an abandoned castle in the middle of a settlement.
Yeah, but Code Lyoko he's more like of a video game.
Is weird and French and has 4 heads.
Well, it's,
yeah.
the castle in this case is literally influenced by an actual castle, or inspired by an actual castle in America. From my old hometown in Methuen, Mass. They actually lost most of the castle to a fire, but using old pictures and stuff, I was kind of able to create that look. And so the whole castle idea actually launches from an idea of there was a haunted castle in my old hometown. Mm-hmm. And I thought that would be a great place to have, you know, demons kind of hanging out, because where else would demons hang out?
I mean, down at the soda shop with Rune, apparently.
At the mall, trying to avoid the security guard.
Well, in our lore, you'll notice that some of the guys have these bracelets on with chains, and the chains actually they get longer and shorter depending on how close they are to the surface of the earth, because according to the Holy Bible, you know, fallen angels are chained under the earth. These chains, if they get too high, they will actually keep them from getting any higher in the subterranean level in reference to the surface of the earth. So you can tell, like right there, you see the guy in red, that's Bryce the Bold. His chains are pretty long, so he's pretty close to the surface. If he gets too close, he'll be bound. But when he goes deep into the earth, towards the domain of Satan's hell, the chains get really small to the point of where there's only 2 or 3 links off the cuff.
It's like those kid leashes they put on people now to make sure they don't wander away from timeout.
yeah. If they get too close, though, the chains will bind him, and he won't be able to go up or down. And that's true for all fallen angels in this story. Which actually plays into the conclusion of issue 4, when we find out the fate of Bryce. If you're familiar with the Power Rangers, Zordon.
I was going to say, so literally Zordon can get trapped in hell and not be able to help the Power Rangers anymore.
Right, but remember, that doesn't mean he wouldn't be able to communicate with them like Big Tube Guy Zordon. So there are a lot of things like when I read it, you know, as the creator, I go back and I'm constantly going, oh yeah, you know, Force 5, Voltron, Robotech, all those animes that meant something to me growing up, they all make minor appearances or major appearances in these books.
I had a friend who was all in on Robotech, and I watched so much of that. and it's like, it's terrible that it's all disconnected shows that kind of fake put together a lineage by dubbing.
Yep.
Because some of them are really good, like Southern Cross, and then some of them are so bad. It's like, but they fight aliens with the power of song. It's like, yeah, but I have to listen to Lin Min-mei whine. Don't want it.
Cross Comics wants to know if Diana watched an episode of Beetleborgs yet.
I have not made her, so I don't think she has. But
well,
yeah,
in fairness, I am in the last 2 weeks of my my actually college graduation is the 30th, so I will be graduating on the 30th of April with my degree in English and creative writing. So I am in the midst of.
Wait a minute. Are you admitting you're about to graduate from college and then going to watch Beetleborgs?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, that's an excellent celebration of getting out of college. Just watching Beetleborgs.
I mean, you should actually, you really need to watch Common Writer before you can get into Beetleborgs.
Is that
Look, the obvious answer is she needs to watch both and then do a dissertation on the cultural impact to writing of Common Writer and Beetleborgs.
I love it.
I mean, realistically, also, if you're going to watch those things, you really need to get yourself immersed in the Japanese Spider-Man show.
Is that right? I know that a lot of my online friends like Rick and Terry and Chris, they all have these amazing programs that I have to watch, and I'm like, okay, guys, I can't yet. I'm still in school.
So the Japanese Spider-Man, I wouldn't necessarily call it amazing, but it's important because Japanese Spider-Man directly leads to the Power Rangers.
Well, it's
Okay.
actually extra funny because I'm not a fan of Kamen Rider just from lack of exposure, but I enjoy the Batman to Kamen Rider's Superman. That is,
I have to
that
step
is
away for just a second. I'll be right back.
that is called the Skull Man, which is the same universe, but a government agency found like an alien crash landing with ancient tech, and the main character stole a piece of that technology and is using it to fight bad guys. So big expansive universe of interesting superhero stuff. But we're talking about this.
We digress. We are talking about this.
Yeah.
I think that the ash can that Chris has written is key to getting a lot more out of the 4 comic books. I mean, you're going to get a lot out of the 4. It's a great story. I really enjoy it, as somebody that came into the comic book world, never reading a comic book in her life, and was taught by Chris how to read a comic book so that I could therefore edit them and give my 2 cents. I think that the ash can provides almost like background information to the story that you may or may not pick up. One of the things that I love about Chris's writing is there's so many different layers to it. Like, you can read the book once, put it down and read it again, and something will pop out at you like, oh my God, I never even picked up on that before. And especially in his artwork too. And not so much with the Great Cyclopean that did have some of the layering. But I know that like Cluster Fudge, I know that Trolls Exposed, those 2 books right off the top of my head has a lot of that, it's just different. It's you read
I
it
tend to
and
make it very difficult. Like, the elevator pitch doesn't do the whole story justice, but you
no,
got
it
to have
doesn't.
an elevator pitch.
Right. Especially
like,
with this story it seems more complicated when Chris went off. I think it was a Critical Blast show. Dear God, I didn't know what he was talking
yeah,
about.
I went off and people were just like, I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, no wonder we haven't gotten any sales. We're like, no, it's not crazy like that.
But it kind of is. But it's kind of like listening to a chorus. As crazy as it sounds, it all fits together. There's a major story with the fallen angels. There's a major story with the teenagers who become the Yoshokin. And then there are like little sub stories that I haven't even begun talking about publicly, because
it gets confusing.
You give people too many things to think about, it does become sludge. And I did that on Critical Blast show. And he was like, okay, I'm confused. And I'm like, all right. Yeah, simplify.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have told you all these little inside things. But
it's teams that want superpowers and gain them through, this demonic battle in the castle, and the story unfolds in that manner. But I was talking, Chris, I don't know if you heard about the Ashcan and how it is a nice companion to the series.
Well, you'll notice the black and white pages you're seeing there come from the Ashcan, and there are redactions in the version that you're looking at. But when you receive your books and you get the Ashcan with it, which I think we're going to be doing anyways, but because right now it was, how is that supposed to be delivered, Diana? I'm not sure, but ultimately it's got secrets in it. So if you read it before you read this series, you're going to have a couple of spoilers. If you read it afterwards, you'll have a couple of things that help fill whatever little holes might exist in one's mind after reading the 4 books.
Right. So the way the Ashcan book basically worked for pre-launch, anybody that signed up during pre-launch and then went ahead once the campaign was live, purchased a physical tier, whether it's the books for kids or the 4 issues, the $35 4-issue one, they would get the Ashcan. However, what we're saying now is we want to make our goal so that if we make our goal our first, I don't know what they call it, perk or whatever it is, everybody knows.
It would be, what do they call that, stretch goal? But we're not even looking at stretch goals. We're trying to get to the
the
funding goal. Yeah.
funding goal. And we were very, I felt very confident with this series. I think it's a good series. I think that, we have another 35, 38 days left on it. We went with a fixed goal instead of a flex goal because I felt confident that we will make our goal. My husband's chuckling because he's like, we're not going to. No, I feel that we are. We're still quite
Well,
early.
no, what I think's going on with Mangai is we just haven't been out promoting it enough.
Right.
And of course I feel deflated because I was serious about going for 1.3 million plus $1, but it was going to be a flex goal, so I could still deliver books even if we didn't make it. But I thought that kind of like we need gimmicks. I think a little bit in indie comics, in any comic, in any industry of entertainment, you need something a little gimmicky to get the eyes and the attention of people.
There is a band. They're called Necrogoblicon. It might not be for everybody's speed, but they have a music video called "We Need a Gimmick," and at the tail end, they have the greatest single scene in music videodom. Everybody's partying because their music video has succeeded, and one guy asks in the background, "Are we famous?" And everybody's quiet for a minute, and the goblin, John Goblicon, for whom the band is named, goes, "Fuck no." because the entire point of the song is it doesn't matter how many times you successfully fund or successfully produce a product, you always go right back to pushing the rock up the hill again.
Yeah.
Always.
Absolutely.
Well, I was talked out of the funding gimmick.
Yes, he was. And it wasn't me. He blames me, but it wasn't just me.
No, it wasn't just you. And in all fairness, many neurotypical people said it was a bad idea. And I identified neurotypical because to some people it's been an issue that I'm autistic. It's not anything that struggles, makes my life a struggle, but we've kind of started talking about it because I think that means so many things to so many people. And I'm like, no, I'm a highly functional, autism is not necessarily it's not a death sentence or a curse in all cases. And
in any case.
The neurotypicals didn't see the genius of 1.3 million plus $1.
Well, he reduced it because he thought that it would be a homage to Ethan Van Sciver.
Yes, that was part of it.
Looking at the amount of money and the success that Ethan Van Sciver has had with cyberpugs and all of that stuff, he felt in his perspective that would be, I want to be like him too. Okay. So by raising our goal, our flexible goal to that level, it was Chris paying Ethan a compliment. That's what his intent was. However, there were people that looked at that and groaned and were kicking and screaming like, you can't do that. And somebody pointed out that
it could be taken as a grudge.
Make it as a grudge. And that's not what we wanted at all. Like, we did not want that at all. That's not was not the intent. So he compromised and put it down to
well, I'm autistic, but I'm not arrogant. Like if enough people tell me, yo, don't do that, I listen. I do. But in turn, we also, because that was my main gimmick for the campaign, not for the book, but to get people to look at the campaign, I don't really have a gimmick now.
Well, you do have add-ons and merch, so
yes,
yeah, we do.
Yeah,
and our T-shirts are all made in-house. We actually bought real manufacturing equipment to make those.
Yep.
So they're not like I don't know, Cafe Express or one of those companies.
That's dedication, because I've worked in the print industry, and that is not a small investment.
I've worked in it too, and that's kind of why I did it, because I was like, man, if we just spend a little bit of money on these machines, babe, we can do some really good stuff.
Right, and it's not just limited to one project.
I didn't like what we were getting from third-party providers on T-shirts. I was like, these shirts are crap.
It's the bare minimum that washes off after 5 washes.
Right.
Yeah, easily.
These are this is an actual press that we bought, and now again, and every show I was like, now that I'm almost done school, I will have so much more time to do the things that I want to do for HeroShack Press for the company. Number one, getting out on more streams and just making us known. A lot of people don't know who we are. We're very small. We have a handful of people that will have us on our show. Thank you guys very much.
Oh, of course.
But this particular campaign, I'm very excited about. We do have the Yushoken pin, which is very cool. We get a lot of compliments on that. As you can see, we have a couple of the T-shirt prints. I wanted to just talk about the tiers that we have. So one of the tiers that we have that we really like. Obviously, we have the comic book edition where you get all of the issues. Okay, all 4 issues. It's I feel the best value if you have the 35. If that is a little too much on your pocketbook, you can go with the digital edition, and it's all the issues are going to be in one PDF format, so you're not going to get 4 separate PDFs. It's going to be one format, so you can just go through that, and that's $10. So for a lot of people that can't afford the 35 and the shipping, that's the way to go. But the prize books for kids, okay, this tier came up because we have family members who want to support our business, but they don't read comic books. So they would buy our books and they'd sit on a shelf and we'd say, hey, did you read them? No, we're really not into. Okay, great. So, and it also helps me because when we do our Comic Cons, Christopher loves to give our books away. So for example, we're at the table making sales. He goes off, comes back. He has bought other comic books and spent his money, whatever.
Yeah.
I go
Set
out.
up all the profits, right? Got it.
Yeah.
I come back and he's grinning from ear to ear. The table was so busy. I had a family of 5. I said, great. What did you sell? Well, they didn't have that much money and all the kids got the book. And so there goes like Cyclopean 1, 2, 3, and 4, and each child got one, but it was the coolest thing and it made the parents happy. And so how much did you make? Well, I didn't. I gave them. I said, okay. So I've learned with Chris, I have to somehow not only manage the business, but give him that satisfaction of being able to give a child a comic book. So the prize book for kids, long story short, are for people that really are not into reading comic books or are feeling generous. They can buy the set of 4. We add their first name to that purchase. Let's say Chris buys the set of 4. Hey, I want to just have fun with this, give them to kids. So as children and families come to our table, we have a wheel of fortune type of thing, a spin wheel. So they spin the wheel, they land on the books, they win the prize. We ask the parent for the child's first name. We write it down in our log, just the first name. We then, after the show, we email the person that bought the book and said, hey, Karen won your book. She was so excited. And so we try to keep some communication between the person that bought the prize books for kids, as long as we're fine. And we've had a lot of success with that. And that way Chris can feel really good because even though the books are paid for and they're a little cheaper, obviously, because they don't have to be shipped. So that's why they're only $30, but still you're getting over 120 colored pages of great comics.
Well, and the thing about it is, and I don't know, anybody out there who makes books, I hope you go through it too. More than selling them, I do like giving them to kids. I like watching like the excitement of a kid who likes
creator.
What's that?
More than selling, I like to give away. So when I'm sitting here looking at our goal, and I'm saying to myself, Chris, how many books have you given away today?
Well, I don't give them away every day, just at shows usually.
And 2 coworkers.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's different.
Oh, here we go. So anyway, so that's the prize book for kids tier. Yeah, I just wanted to explain that a little bit.
Well, it's a great idea. I do enjoy it. I've always encouraged creators to have some kind of tier where you can give these books out in certain venues. I've always suggested, either local shelters, hospitals, things of that
Yes.
nature. Being able to bring light to somebody's day,
Mhm.
even at a convention. You're walking around and you see all of this cool stuff, but you barely have enough money just to get in the door and see the
Exactly.
cool stuff. It's nice to be able to walk away with something, and that's
Exactly.
something that you'll always remember. So
Yeah.
I would like to take Chris's side on this just for a second and say that, while it does hurt the profit margin in the short term, you always have the potential that one kid is going to remember, and when they do have money, they're going to look up HeroShack
Yeah.
Press
Yeah.
and see if
Well,
there's something else they can get.
We have actually experienced that with the Great Cyclopean. He's been our flagship character since 2019 when we started doing shows.
Yeah.
And we've had kids that have gotten free Cyclopean stuff who have come up and bought the Great Cyclopean series, which is like the third time that I've actually presented the character in comics with multiple books. And he bought the whole set. But here's the thing. He was nonverbal autistic. So he couldn't tell me anything. His mother walked him up. I think he might have been 19 or 20.
Yeah. He was an
And
older.
he was super excited. She bought
When he
every
bought
issue we
Great.
had that was new. And I was like, how does he even know about him? Well, he won a character card 2 years earlier at the show. And I was like,
He
wow,
won
a
a
character
print,
card.
and
Lunch
he had it on
pads.
his wall. That's what it was. He won like
Yep.
an 11/17 print of the Great Cyclopean, and
Yes.
literally putting it on his bedroom wall. And then this was at KidsCon in Maine. He had
That's right.
seen us at KidsCon in Nashua the year before. That's where he won it. So you're right. You're right in the sense that we do give away a lot. That prize wheel, all the prizes are they're free. We have like smaller prizes or whatever, but it's one way to get people to stop at our table with their children so that we can talk to the parents about the characters and whatnot. And we do that
Right.
pretty well.
I mean,
No,
Um,
I've always appreciated stuff like that because getting kids involved is what comics has always been about for me.
Absolutely.
A lot of kids in our generation will never have that feel that everybody on this panel has had of walking up to a newsstand on New Comic Book Day, because they don't exist anymore. Like you
well,
can't.
that's what I was gonna edge in wise. Jim Shooter, contentious d-bag of great fame in the comic sphere, went on the record at some interview or other and said that one of the biggest detriments to modern comics for the mainstream industry was going into comic shops, was not being on the newsstand anymore. Right?
Yeah. Well,
Now,
I mean, and even going into comic shops, I went into mine recently and I bought some Magic cards. And they had some sports cards and some jerseys and some Pokemon stuff, and they were missing something. Oh, it was comics they didn't have anymore.
Well, I have heard people describe the experience of going to your first comic shop, which is certainly a good one. It's very much like going to your first bar, right?
Yeah.
How it is this sort of hole in the wall, squirreled away location where you can be an abject nerd and no one's going to judge you, and that's got a place. That's a good thing, right? But it also,
when everyone turns and looks at the door when the one girl that frequents the place comes in.
but it also has the unfortunate side effect of it didn't just make the content elite, it made it isolated. It removed it from the public eye. It made it not for the Rex Populi. So just, I go to the store, I'm getting eggs and milk and a loaf of bread, and I'm not going to pick up a $2 comic book off the stand anymore because it's just not there. Right? Maybe Archie, if I cared about Archie. Right.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because that was what was coming to mind. You still see Archies, but you don't see.
It's the only one that abides the comics code.
Yeah.
I mean, quite frankly, we want to put comics back on shelves. We got to get rid of the comics code, like actually scrub it.
Well, no, you have to make comics kid friendly again. I agree that the comics
that is also
code,
true.
I agree that the comics code has always been a problem, but you have to make comics kid friendly. You have to make them something that kids want to be interested in.
Well, you know what's funny?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, sir.
Well, it's a point that I've brought up many times on the show, and I'm pretty sure I brought it up the last time you guys were on, but you've got $5 in your pocket and you walk into one of these shops, even if they do still have comic books, what makes a child want to buy a comic book that has no resale value over a lottery ticket in the form of a pack of Pokemon cards?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, also, when you're talking about comics being kid friendly, is, we talk about Spider-Man off and on this show, usually arguing about Peter versus Miles, right? But one of those things is like, if you're a Peter Parker fan, if you like Spider-Man comics lately, it's been torture porn. Bad things happen to Peter Parker and they just pile. There's no redeeming positivity.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
Which means if you put that on the rack, if you put Spider-Man, which is an inoffensive everybody comic, on the rack, kids wouldn't buy it because after a couple of issues, they'd be like, "This is sad and depressing." So
well,
you always hear people saying, "I want fun comics back," but they don't know how to define what fun is. Fun comics are comics and go on the rack.
my wife actually just pointed something out that I hadn't really even considered because it was just an afterthought for me. But we do homeschooling, and one of the tools available to us is a program called Epic Books.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It's a reading app, and it allows children to pick things that interest them to get their daily reading in. They've all blown through all of the comic books on there, and apparently Cat Ninja is one of their favorites. So I mean, they will invest the time and enjoy these stories, but it has to be first off accessible to them.
Yep.
So a $6, $7, $8 price point's not going to get it,
Right.
and it secondly has to be something engaging to children. So, I mean, you've got Cat Ninja, you've got Dog Man, you've got, Captain Underpants, all of these things that are just fun and childlike and
selling well. And selling very well.
That's and they're available in markets that are accessible to children.
Yes.
Right.
And what we're talking about ultimately is part of the constipation in the mainstream market. Because one of the things that I'm always talking about with indies, I recently sent a letter. I sent an email to Eric July over at Ripaverse. And I was like, "Hey guys, I like your work. I like what you say. Do you have any plans in the future to open submissions? Right? Do you have submission guidelines?" And they said, "No, we don't." Now, mind you, they parsed it very much as not at this time. Right? Whereas I have mailed other people, and I spoke with your boy Zach, who were outright like, "Oh no, why would we do that?" The thing is that if you have to have comics that are kid friendly, right, and you need product, right, you have to open out. You have to expand out your business, not just to take risks, but to accept more perspectives and more energy.
Yep.
Right. So, to my thought process, I know, as you said, you guys are really small, right? But I would hope that in 5-10 years, when you guys are more established, that everyone's like, "Oh, I love HeroShack," that you guys would do that. You'd have submissions, because then people like me who want better comics and go, "Hey guys, can I write for you? I want to write fun comics for kids."
That's actually one of my dreams.
That is, I was going to say, that is our overall goal, is to be able to offer other creators, whether they're writers or artists, to come under sort of our umbrella to help you get published, to help you do what you want.
Well, not only that, but my favorite thing would be like handing off the Great Cyclopean to a team.
Yeah.
And saying go.
and it translates to what we were talking about: more books in more hands and more eyes on books in a wider range for everybody. Everybody profits.
Yep.
Right.
Sure, exclusivity gives the patina of elitism, but that doesn't actually translate to a healthy business model in the long term.
Exactly.
As we round into our last little bit here, let's continue on through the tiers we have. We talked about the prize book for kids, and we spoke briefly about the hardcover edition.
Yes.
You also have the collector's pack, so that is a double order of all 4 issues.
Yeah, we have a friend named Lorenzo Sleestack. You might know him. He's been around a lot of things. That's the Lorenzo tier, so to speak. We haven't got his name on there, but he's the one who inspired it. He always says, "Is there any way to buy 2 books?"
Yeah.
So we made sure that's there.
Well, and that's a collector's mindset. You could really call it. Yeah, I mean that's the collector's tier.
Yep.
Because you want one to read and one to bag.
Right.
You're going to get them and you're going to do the holy grail thing where you lift it up ever so slightly by the edges and you're going to examine the surface. You're going to check the corners and you're ever so lightly going to open the first page, check the coloring.
It always cracks me up,
go into
though.
the bag.
Like, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I wasn't a collector. So I was a reader. I would have stacks of comics flat on their backsides, stacked on each other. And I had friends who were collectors, and they'd have heart attacks.
It was it was a point of umbrage in my house. My father was the collector, and there's a small story that I've told on this show before. I was 4, and my father came home, and I had made confetti out of an original set of Secret Wars comics.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh god!
Poor kid.
But now I did replace them eventually.
So Church,
is this why Church is the Secret Wars expert?
Yes.
Well, my question
Actually,
Church,
yes.
is how many weeks in the hospital was it before you woke up?
Yeah.
I was 4. I didn't receive that big of a beating. It was actually worse. There was emotional damage because my father was disappointed.
Emotional damage. So I have to ask, how many years did your father drink, and when did he actually say that he loved you?
Yeah, exactly. No, but it does ring true that when Secret Wars 2015 came out. It was right after he had passed away, and that's one of the reasons that resonated so heavily with me.
Oh wow!
Was because of that story. He would tell that story to everyone who ever picked up.
Oh my word!
I am also.
I heard that story until I was 26 years old.
I am also a terrible steward of my comics. Like, I have a bunch of graphic novel reprints. They're all as well protected as I can make them. And if someone were to ask, well, Joe, where are all your regulars? You had comics for years. My father had a cat, and cats are evil.
Oh no!
There was a cat that was using a back area as a restroom, and of course, fate decided that was where the urine should soak, is into my packing box full of comics.
Naturally, yes.
So I've never been able to reclaim.
You might as well have just printed a target on the side of that box.
Yeah, there was literally no way to ever reclaim what was lost. Decades of comic, but I still love my comics. Some of them survived. I've kept them, and it's like, but Joe, these smell of dust and cat piss. Like, shut up, they're my comics.
Oh no! No, my collection now is entirely made up from what we've gotten on campaigns and conventions.
Yeah,
and it's weird because I used to have 2 long boxes full of Marvel and DC.
The thing is that
my sweet summer child.
The thing is that if I went to your house, you showed me your comics. I went to Church's house, and he showed me his comics. If you came to my house and looked at the sorry state of my comics, they all have that ephemeral patina of love. We love our comics, right? We read our comics.
I have a long box full of readers out of bags and boards, and then I have another, I think, 13 or 14 long boxes.
That's Fort Knox, right? Yeah, that's where the treasure goes.
But
that's where the Alex Ross autographs are.
The most hateful thing I've ever seen, and mind you, it wasn't a fiction, but I'm sure these people exist, was some 20-something super rich guy who made his money in like crypto and the market and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Owning a Spider-Man #1.
You mean an Amazing Fantasy 15?
Yep. And it's in a polybag, in a air-controlled, deoxygenated glass impenetrable case.
He got it slabbed, yeah.
In the middle of a fortress room, right?
With lasers, like in fucking
lasers
Mission Impossible.
But the thing is that it's not so anyone can read it. So he's never seen the inside of it. He doesn't love the comic, right? It's so every so often he can walk in with a couple of his forget about it friends and go, see this is my comic book, right?
Well,
so he can stand in that room and feel like he's a somebody because he's got the one.
To be fair, Joe, that's better than stocks.
It can be. but but
amazing 15 in that condition is never going to devalue.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like I said, it was from a fiction. It was from a show called White Collar, and the main character was actually going to steal it. Right. Yeah. So we get why it had to be fancy for a TV show. But I'm just saying, I hate the idea that there are people in the collector sphere who collect comics purely for the possession of object and not for the love of the medium. Right. You know, it's like
I don't understand them. I don't know that I hate them, but I don't understand them. I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's like you have the grandma that bought Beanie Babies who loves her Beanie Babies, and they're all her baby. Right.
And then the grandkids that tried to sell them for a profit and never got anything.
But then you also have that person that's like, oh yeah, I bought $100,000 worth of Beanie Babies and I just had them dumped in a dumpster because they were worth nothing. And it's like, but you bought those. Those are your Beanie Babies. Those.
Yeah, go play cornhole with them or something.
Yeah, so give them to a child to chew on. Play hacky sack. What the hell?
Right.
All right, guys. Let's clear the floor and let our guest have their final thoughts. So,
well, and Larry, because Larry has said almost nothing all show. He's just
because you guys actually have experience with these folk, and what would actually be better for the audience is you guys digging in here, using that experience and knowledge.
I don't know why I removed Rune.
Because you want to see me dead and burned or something.
So Diana,
covered in gasoline on fire.
No, because you're a furry, not because I hate you.
Right.
Diana.
Yes.
You are far better at this than me. Do you have any final thoughts on what you'd like to say about Man Guy?
Well, I think that you would be pleasantly surprised. The $10 tier is the PDF. Go for it. Just buy it. Buy it. Help us.
Just buy it. You will find the links to the Indiegogo and their website down below in the description, as well as the Twitter page for Chris. I didn't know if Diana wanted hers public or not.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't get much action on my Twitter page, but that's okay.
But no, just buy it. I think is a fantastic point.
Well, and keep an eye on the page on day 31 here. Okay. We're going to do some sort of clever rebranding, relaunching, re-updating the page. It won't be anything new content-wise as far as like the book's not changing, but I'll update the art. We're reviewing some of the writing because we're taking input as we go and asking people, what would you like to see up there? What's, what held you back? What made you buy?
Has been a big thing. A few people have mentioned Chris's coloring.
My coloring is always different. Like some people love it and some people hate it. Yeah. But we've heard from a few haters, but I can't change the coloring. That's the thing. The books are already done.
Yeah.
Right. But now I'm just doing touch up before we launch. So the coloring is what it is. But if you guys see the coloring and you want to give some advice or some thoughts, or if you like it, let us know, because I love all those comments. They help me shape it.
I mean, here's just an idea. If people have a problem with how you color and or art, maybe they should either get into coloring and or art.
Maybe, but I always take those things. So the best thing to do when I get criticized for me, and this is where autism is a benefit, I take it humbly, I try to examine it, and I try to apply it. And that, even if someone's looked at me and said, you just suck, your stuff sucks, I look at it and go, okay, so how can it suck less? Like, I gotta turn it around into a positive, or else it would eat me alive,
I'm just saying the art that we've seen here for Manga Yokoshan is not so different from the art quality and coloration from the Great Cyclopean that it like stands out as weird or wrong. If you like one, you'll probably like the other, so it's fine.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
All right, guys. And with that, I want to thank our guests for coming on and sharing their project with us. And we will see you guys next week.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Since Ayrton isn't here, Larry, would you mind?
Good night, everybody.